Good evening, folks, and welcome. Friday, 1st of March, the night before Kelso Morebattle Hurdle Day. Cannot wait, looking forward to it tomorrow. Very honoured once again to be joined by good pal Rachel. Rachel, how are you getting on?
Yes, in all honesty, Don, I cannot wait for tomorrow. I am so excited. It's a really competitive field, and I feel like Kelso deserve the credit that they get for
Yeah,
putting on so much prize money. They've attracted trainers, horses from all over the UK and even Ireland. It's going to be a fantastic day, and I'm so looking forward to it. I cannot wait.
yeah, buzzing. There's the majority of the cards tomorrow. Look cracking. Looks a really good day. Going to be a competitive day, which is what we want to see, especially the more battle. I think we've got 18 at the time of recording. Really looking forward to it. Now, we were meant to be joined by Scott Hamilton this evening. Scott has been unavoidably detained. He might join us later on. Um, we will wait and hope that we can be lucky enough to see him. But if not, you've got me and Rachel for the next wee while. And without further ado, Rachel, let's just get stuck in, right? Because I'm looking forward to this. We kick off tomorrow at 1:42. It's the Bet365 Handicap Hurdle Class 2 race, just shy of 2 miles and 5 furlongs. 9 declared to run at the time of recording. Rachel, where do you want to start here?
Um, I'm going to start with a horse. I hope the pronunciation is right. It's Elands for Anthony Charlton and Bradley Harris. Now, this horse was really interesting last time out when he won at Wincanton. He runs a wee bit from off the pace, but he travels exceptionally well into his races. Um, Last time out when he won at Wincanton, he was being niggled all the way up the straight, and he just got there on the line. And the horse that he finished in front of is quite a nice looking horse for Rebecca Curtis. And the two of them both pulled well clear to win by 10 lengths. He's open to further improvement as this will be his second run this season. Looking at the way he likes to run, obviously from off the pace, and the ground that he's been running on, it's pretty similar to when he won last time out. He's right down the bottom of the handicap. He's carrying 10 stone 2, and with Bradley Harris taking £3 off, obviously he's a wee bit below the handicap, but he's never been out of the first 3 in all his runs, so he is consistent. There seems to be no stamina doubts over this distance, and the money has been coming for him most of the afternoon. But the most intriguing runner for me, Don, has to be the favourite, which is Kaluki Kid. Now, when I previewed this race yesterday, he opened up at 20-1, and he's now 7-2 favourite. The money has been coming for him. I'm not sure where that money is coming from, but obviously this will be his first run in handicap company. It'll be his debut. He is on a low weight. He is a 6-year-old and he is improving. This will be, I think it's his second time over 2.5 miles, or it may be his first. I do think though, he was 7 lengths behind Jericho Durepine, who's quite a strong fancy for many come Cheltenham in just under 2 weeks. And the horse who finished second to him was Lump Sum, who came out and won at Kempton last weekend. So I can see the connection for punters to latch onto the Kaluki Kid. He's the most intriguing runner, but I just think there's a wee bit more improvement to come from Eland. I do think that the way this race will be ridden, he'll come from like off the pace and he'll travel really well into the final couple of furlongs. He is the youngest in the field alongside the Kaluki Kid, and for me, they come with the most potential and improvement in this sort of field. There's a few in here that you can understand, and you wouldn't be surprised if they did win. I mean, Brew and Applestorm, he's been such a good horse for Ollie Murphy, but he's obviously drifting a wee bit in the bet. And Pentland Hills, obviously, I'm sure he won the Triumph, if I'm correct.
Pentland Hills won the Triumph that Sir Eric broke down in.
So, I mean, he is a good horse, but I'm just going to go with the two horses who have the most potential and improvement done, and for me, my selection would be Eland. But I can understand why the money's coming for the Kaluki kid. He's also another horse with serious improvement, but I just like the way that Eland ran last time out and pulling well clear from the remainder of the field. Like I've said, there's no stamina doubts with him, and I think that the way that he has shortened up in the bet, and I think that's a good sign. And he would be my selection to kick us off on the Morebattle Hurdle Day at Kelso.
Spot on, Rich. The market's spoken, like you said, for Kaluki Kid, and it is the one I like. Nicky Richards' horse. He was fourth behind, and you just spoke about it. They lump sum and fiercely proud in a grade 2 at Donny last time, but they went a bit of a doddle that day, and I like the step up and trip. He's already won on soft ground, 2.5 miles around Musselburgh, ahead of La Vida Adiva. I hope I've said that right. But more importantly, Ottazzini. And Ottazzini's came out and won since. The only pace in here looks like it's Rafferty's return. If he gets competition up front, they might set a good gallop. And then I would be even more confident on the Nicky Richards horse running well. He's the least exposed in here. I'm on at 4-1. I missed the big prices. Now the best price, you're generally getting 11-4. There's a few 72 kicking about. So the money's still coming. I hope we're going to get a good run for our money with him. The main threat for me is Brewing Up a Storm. Even though he's 11, he's still a talented animal. I'm just not sold Kelso's for him. I might be proven wrong tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes. One thing we can't forget tomorrow is Patrick Wadge is on fire at the minute, and he's still got his £3 claim. You cannot write off Serious Operator for Lucinda, and that horse was 5th in the Lanzarote last time. So even in the first race, we're talking about quite a competitive heat. Is it Itzel Fury? Itzel Fury's went up £5 for that last run in a better race. And I get your stance on Elands, I do, but he's in the same boat. He's went up £8 and he's now in a better race. There's a number of them here you would be daft to write off. For me, I just think the unexposed nature, the step up, and hopefully a better gallop than what I got at Doncaster. For me, the Kaluki Kid is the one to be with.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Don, there's so many on here that you could give a chance to. Mostly the Kaluki Kid and Elands, who are the most progressive looking. Obviously, like you've just said there, Elands has went up from his win at Wincanton, but he is progressive. You've said there Rafferty's return is the pacemaker, but as we know, Ross Chapman, when he gets a horse in front around Kelso, he is a good judge of pace.
Yep.
So the remainder of the field would be able to catch up with him if he was given a wee bit of a free rein in this race. But I just think the competitiveness, I don't think any of the jockeys would allow that to happen. And obviously the betting spoken and the Kaluki Kid is put down into 72 favouritism at the moment. And you can't fault his claims. I mean, he has finished 4th, albeit that was beaten. He finished 7 lengths behind Jericho de Repine. And like you say, it was more just sort of like a crawl and then they sprinted. And I think if they gallop here, which I think they will, it could set it up for him. So intriguing first race to kick us off on Morebattle Hurdle Day at Kelso, and it should be a cracking race for this sort of class in nature. So you're going with the Kaluki Kid. I'm on Elands, I think.
For me,
yeah. So no, should be a good race to kick us off.
Yeah, it certainly should be. Moving on now to the 217. The Bet365 Premier Novices Hurdle. Highlight of the card here, Rachel. Grade 2, over 2 miles with 12 due to run. A horse we've spoken about, Rachel, was in here. Paul Robson's Cannock Park.
Yeah, now I am so excited to see Cannock Park here. He looks, whatever he achieves over hurdles will certainly be decent enough, but when he goes over a fence, he's going to be a totally different horse, and I cannot wait to see that happen. Now, for me, Cannock Park, he was 14 lengths behind Django Bay in the Grade 1 Form Bay at Aintree on Boxing Day. And if I'm honest, I did feel like Cannock Park, there's only one way he can be ridden. He is quite a boisterous horse, and he does like to get on with things from the front.
Yeah.
So, Cannock Park, I was reading, and Paul Robson has said that the ground looks to be coming right for him. Now, being in Kelso and living in Kelso, we've had rain from 5 p.m. onwards. So I'm not sure if that might be the case come tomorrow, but the track will suit him, and it's a sharp 2 mile 2 furlongs, and it looks ideal for him. Craig Nicol gets on brilliant with this horse, and I think at the price of 11-1, he's decent each way value. But I am actually going to take him on in this, Don, with Personal Ambition. Now, he did at Sandown before winning impressively at Doncaster last time out. He will receive weight from Django Bay as he carries a penalty for winning the Grade 1 novices at Aintree. I did make a note that he would be interested back on better ground. If we get the forecasted rain, I could see it being good to soft with a wee bit of soft in places.
Yeah.
But he had easier ground with giving it. He is up in class, but he's certainly progressive and open to improvement. I couldn't be back in Django Bay based on the form that the Henderson Stables is running in at the moment. I mean, from their recent runs, I think they've had 8 runs and 6 have pulled up. And for me, that's quite a... I just don't think that sits right with me. I mean, we're approaching a big festival, as everyone knows, at Cheltenham, and for Henderson's horses to not be in the best form, obviously the news came out on Monday about Constitution Hill.
Yeah.
There is a wee bit of a worry. This is Henderson's first runner off the day at Kelso, so it will be interesting to see how Django Bay performs for Under Control in the following race, to see if he wins it. Obviously Under Control will be shortened in the betting, I would imagine, but I just can't have Django Bay based on the form that the Henderson stable is in at the moment. So I'm going to take the 4-1 price on Personal Ambition. I think he's the one that has the most improvement, Don, but I wouldn't rule out anyone back in Cannock Park at 11-1. He's a really nice horse, and chasing will be his game. If he picks up a win in this race, I think it'll stand him in really good stead going into chasing in the future. And obviously the 14 lengths defeat from Django Bay to Cannock Park, I think it was just set up for him. I mean, he went a decent gallop in this, but there's a couple of front runners in here, Don.
Yep.
I mean, you can't rule any out, but I just think at the weights, Personal Ambition, I think can win this race. He's my selection.
For me, he is very much one for next year, and I'm looking forward to it. The 14 lengths behind Django Bay worries me. The ground was awful that day. It was terrible. I still think Far and Glory would have won that race if he'd stayed on his feet. The Django Bay won, but we'll never know. And I have been looking forward to him running. I think this is the first time he's ran since Boxing Day, and we've spoken about him 3 times, so we're both excited to see him. But he's only £3 better off with Django Bay than he was in that race. So I really want to see him run well. I really hope he gets into a place, or even better tomorrow. But for me, I'm going to be keeping an eye on him next year. You're one of the many that's on Personal Ambition, because the money's coming already. And I noticed earlier on, I was on the exchanges, it was quite clear the price was dropping. I still think, and you're right, he is progressive, but I think he's still got something to prove at this level. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of them have got something to prove at this level. I think it's nuts, some of the horses that are in here. The one that I do respect a lot is Brucio. Brucio's win at Leopardstown last month was very impressive, and she's duly been put up to a mark of 132. And the only other one that I think is a graded horse is Django Bay. Now, I get there's been a lot said about the Henderson stable for him this week, especially on social media. There's been a lot put in there. Some of those horses that have pulled up and that haven't run well weren't expected to. They were big prices. Some of them have been coming back from breaks. Some of them are against hot favourites. So I'm not reading into it too much. But he generally does this. He generally starts to land a few winners before we hit middle of March, and you know what I mean, before we hit the festival. So I'm not too concerned. But the reason I am with Django Bay here is I am stunned that this horse is 5-2. He's the only graded winner in this race. Most of them have never even seen this level. I mean, you could make a case for all of them, but some of them are nowhere near the same level that he has ran up to so far. The threat for me is Brucio. If you're between the two of them, take the 61. And I mean that, right? I'm only saying I like Django Bay because I thought he was opening up here 64. I genuinely thought in this field that horse was going to be a damn sight shorter, and he's on the drift. If he continues to drift in the morning, I'm going to heed my latter advice and go each way in Brucio. But if he stays relatively steady at 5-2, I think 5-2 might be a wee bit silly. I think that's a wee tasty price for a horse that is the only graded winner in here, albeit on that attritional ground that we saw at Boxing Day. So really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to the whole day's racing, but the first 3 races in particular are wild. I think they could go anywhere. I just think in here, I'm drawn in by the graded form.
No, I don't blame you, Don. I just feel like with Django Bay, obviously he finished second behind Handstands last time out. Now, we don't know how good this horse is. For me, watching that Django Bay, I mean, it was attritional ground. I don't think we've seen the best of him, but I just think Django Bay should have been winning that.
Probably.
Should have been winning that against Handstands. I mean, Handstands has entered in the Baron Bingham, and Django Bay's only entries for Cheltenham is the Supreme and the Baron Bingham, and he's actually shorter in the Bingham than he is in the Supreme.
Yeah.
So I think potentially, even though this is a step up to 2 mile 2, it may play in his favours, and I think if he does win this, he may go to Cheltenham. But by reading what Nicky Henderson said, this race, if he runs well here, he would go on towards the Grade 1 at Aintree. And I do think a flatter track suits him better. I've seen him on a really undulating track, possibly when he was in his point-to-point, and he finished behind No Flies on him, and he looked to be a good thing at Cheltenham. Not necessarily a good thing like he would go and win, but he did have good trajectory going into Cheltenham until he got beat by, I'm sure it was Tully Hill a few weeks ago. So, I mean, I can see your case on Django Bay, but for me, I think I'm going to take the improver and the most progressive, I think, in the field in Personal Ambition. And I just think with getting weight from Django Bay, he could be the one who picks up the pieces of Django Bay underperforms. But I think each on Cannock Park, I can't let Cannock Park go and bet at 11-1. I think he could run a good race for Paul. And he's a small.
I'll be the one that looks silly. Remember that when it gets to tomorrow and he goes and hoses up, I'll be the one that looks daft because I'm the one that's not put him up. And we've been talking about him the last 3 podcasts, so I hope he does. I really hope he does. But I'm really looking forward to him next year.
Yeah, no, next year will be his year when he goes chasing.
Yeah, I think the Huntington race with Django Bay was in. He was wide. He got hindered, I think, halfway as well. He was really keen, and he still was about a length off. So it never really went for him that day. I'm willing to put a line through that, but I'm also willing to put a line through the Henderson yard for him. So there's a couple of concessions I'm making here, and you're quite right to flag that up. But there's a few things But when you do take those concessions away, I do think he should be shorter than this. But we'll see what happens in the morning. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Moving on. So that's the main race of the day, if you like, in terms of class. This is the main race of the day in terms of what it's all about. We move on to the Bet365 Morebattle Hurdle at 250. Class 2, over 2 miles, 18 declared. And to be honest, Rachel, this is one of my favourite races of the season. I always look forward to it, not just because it's at Kelso, but it's always a great race. I'm going to be cheeky here. I'm going to take 2 against the field, but before I haver some nonsense, I'll let you go first.
Well, I'm going to join you, Don, and take 2 horses as well. Now, you're going to buy them off my collective rockers putting these horses up, but anyway, we'll go with it. So, I'm going to take is Geronimo for Donald McCain and Charlie Maggs. Now, you can get him at 25-1. He was shorter before at 22-1, but 25-1 is the general price at the moment. Now, he's a really likeable and consistent horse, and he goes from the front and he can dictate in a field like this. He might not be able to get things his own way, as there looks to be a couple of front runners in here, but he is in the front, and if he's in the front with the last 2 furlongs, he is a very hard horse to get past. He's 2 from 2 under Charlie Maggs, who claims on him, and he seems to get a good tune out of him, being under 2 from 2 on the horse with him. Now he is 25-1, but that doesn't put me off, Don. I mean, there's 18 runners, which means you get the first 4 each week. So I'm not taking any off the top of the market. There's nothing in there that's really catching my eye. I prefer to go for a bigger priced horse in a field like this. Geronimo would be my first selection, based on the fact that his 2 runs today under Charlie Maggs has been impressive, and he is a very hard horse to get past. And my second horse, currently at 33-1. Now the price has been shortening up. I think he was 50-1 at an earlier stage today, but he's been backed into 33s, and that is Caithness for Lucinda Russell. Now, he's 2 from 3 at Kelso. He has ground conditions which are suitable for him, and the trip will be no concern. He's run well in a big field handicap before, so has the experience of doing that. He finished 3rd at Cheltenham, and it looks as though this has been the target. He's been dropped £2 to get into this race, and he's at the bottom of the handicap. Derek Fox has rode him before, and he has won from him mostly at Kelso, which was over 2 miles on good ground. He's also won round Kelso 2 miles on soft ground. So even with the rain falling, the ground currently is good to soft, but if the ground goes good to soft in places, which it may happen tomorrow with the rain, I mean, it's not like falling down heavily, it's just a sort of drizzle at the moment, but I do think that an each way price 33-1 is decent value for me, and I just really like this horse. He was well beaten at Musselburgh last time out by Affodil, who went on to win the county hurdle. But going off what Lucinda's saying, he's a really tough horse, and I think the return back to Kelso will be strengths.
And I think we are going to get soft in places tomorrow. I've just got a feeling the water's going to get into it overnight, and I think we'll be good to soft in places. And I think that changes things for a few horses. So if you are interested in looking at the ground, anyone that's watching, just keep an eye on it and keep an eye on the times throughout the day, because it will be interesting to see what happens here. I'm going to start at the top of the market, Rachel. Under Control was very poor in December on reappearance in a Grade 3 Newbury, but made up for it in January with a 2-length defeat to Ashroe Diamond, a horse that both me and you put up in that Grade 2 win at Donny. This race looks red hot to me, and that is far too skinny. Was it 72?
Yeah, 72.
That's too skinny for me in this race. Black Hawk Eagle might still be progressing, but it's climbing the weights after those 2 recent wins. Sky Cutter done it in easy, very easy at Carlisle last month. He's went up £6 for that. Carlisle and Kelso are very different tracks, and I wouldn't necessarily look and be at Carlisle form and transferring that to Kelso. The 2 I'm taking against the field here, the very first one is last year's winner, Benson. Now, everything fell right for him last year. He got a strong pace, he got a nice position, and see, when the button was pushed, he never really get any traffic, and he carved his way through the field. He's £5 higher than last year's win, but there's nothing here to indicate the pace is actually going to be any slower. And he won't mind the ground at all, whether it's good to soft or even if it goes soft. I think he's worth a go at 11s. The other one, and one I have spoke about recently, is Kraken Rhapsody. Anyone who listens to the podcast a couple of weeks ago, either this podcast or the Under Starters Orders podcast, he was my nap of the weekend. And he duly obliged. He won by just a neck, mind. But he's still 5 years old, and he got stuck behind the second and third horses in the home straight. When he got clear air, he finished strong. So I'm not concerned about the £4 rise. He's 16s, I'm more than happy to roll in at that price. And you've got a 25, a 33, there's an 11 and a 16. Stuff that you can go back all four of them if you want. But I'm with you. I think this pace, I'd be looking away from the top of the market. I think there's some value in here. I really do. Under Control might turn out to be a beastie and animal. But for me, in a race like this, I'll definitely be looking to find some value in it.
I mean, if Under Control does win this, Don, I will be very pleased about my nap for Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Very pleased with my nap for Cheltenham. So if Under Control wins this, I'll be very happy and I'll be like counting my money. That I would stay away from the top of the market and look for more value. I mean, most places like Sky Bet, I think, are paying 6 places. Different betting operators will be paying like maybe 5-6 places. Obviously Ladbrokes, if there's 16 runners in a handicap, they pay 4 places, so there is a bit of value in the remainder of the field. And I would not urge people, but I just think that there's horses in here at a bigger price who may be better handicapped than the favourite.
Most bookies giving you 5 places. Betway, Sky, Willie Hill, 365, all 6 places. I'll be very surprised if one of the 4 we've tipped up does not finish in the top 6. I'll be, as a matter of fact. So I think we've got you covered. I'd like to think so. Moving on, the 325, the Bet 365 Premier Chase. Listed race, just shy of 3 miles with 7 declared. We've got One Big Genius in here, a talking horse for all the wrong reasons, but we'll come on to that shortly. However, I believe, Rachel, you've done a write-up for this one on the Understarters Orders webpage.
Yeah, so being from Kelso, I just thought I would do my write-up for the Understarters Orders podcast at the second big race on the day, which is the Bet365 Premier Chase. It is a listed event. There's quite a lot of depth in this race for me. And I have put up Elvis Mail as my selection in this race. Now, he's a horse who's won round here before, so horses for courses and courses for horses. He's won over further. He's a winner over 3 mile 2 furlongs, so there is no trip concerns. Obviously, the rain that has fallen will play to his strengths. I would put a line through his last run at Cheltenham as he made quite a bad blunder, maybe 5-6 home, and that just scuppered any chances that he had. I've got no worries with Nick Alexander getting him schooled in the prep for this. And Nick Alexander has said that obviously, like I have reiterated, he loves the track. He's a course and distance winner. He is a bit wrong at the weights. He is 11 stone 2. In previous races that he's won round here, he's been 10 stone 12, 10 stone 8. But Nick always likes to prefer that this horse runs in a smaller field. He did win the feature race at Kelso around this time last year when ITV were there. And I just think, even though he is 10, he is still quite lightly raced over this distance. And I think that he has got a lot of progressiveness in him. So I'm going to take Elvis Mail at 7-1. I think that he is a good horse. I do think that Monbeg Genius does need to win this to put a marker down for entry. There's just something about him that I can't really grasp onto him. Like, I don't know what it is. I've not put my finger on it, but Monbeg Genius, there's just something missing for him for me to put him up. I think based on the form that he's shown this year, I mean, he was pulled up on his last start, his first start, sorry, and then he was third behind That's All Right, Gino, in the Coral Gold Cup on Hennessy weekend. He's possibly the pace angle in this race. We know he likes to go from the front. Harriet Graham has advised that they will be not changing any tactics with him. They'll just ride him from the front, but he may prove too vulnerable. I must say though, Don, the interesting one for me has got to be the mare at the bottom of the weight, which is La Renommée for Dr. and Jamie Insole. Now she's currently 18-1, which might put people off having a wee each way bet on her, but she'll be getting weight from her rivals. She's mostly been running in mares races, which I think is to get a wee bit black type before she goes off to the breeding sheds. She makes headway in her runs and then gets outpaced before picking up again. And as we see from her form figure, she's been second the last 3 times that we've seen her. So I do think that the step up and trip to just shy of 3 miles will really suit her, as most of her runs have been over 2.5 miles, which most of these mare chases are. So I think she's quite dangerous by getting weight and a step up and trip. And Richard Newland and Jamie Inso, like, they've just recently collaborated together and they've had quite a few good runs with their horses. They actually have Rewired in the previous race, the Morebattle Hurdle. So if Rewired wins a good race, I wouldn't be surprised to see the price shorten up for La Renamie come the 325 race. So Elvis Bale's my selection, but one at a bigger price is the mare for Richard Newland and Jamie Inso. I think there's a wee bit of value in that based on the fact that she's getting weight and she is stepping up in trip, which I think will play to her strengths.
Spot on, Rachel. Thank you very much. I touched on One Big Genius when we started in this race. And the rumours are, and they are only rumours, that the horse was pulled from the Welsh National due to the media hype around the owner at the time. I'm not going to mention who the owner is. If you want, you can go and Google One Big Genius owner and you will get everything you need to know there. The Racing Post have been quite polite about it. The Racing Post have said niggling issues, which means nobody actually knows why the horse has really not been running. Is it 90 odd days? So 91 days. The odds were shortening when I was looking at this earlier on, but they're not. They're relatively steady now. And as much as he might be the best horse in this race, it would not surprise me if the main aim was the Ultima in a couple of weeks' time and or the National. 9:13.8, I'm going to be looking elsewhere, Rachel. Manila Drama, there's a few horses in here I have backed over the years that I really like. Poor old Cooper's Cross sitting down there at 100 to 1, but he's just not been the same force of old. Manila Drama's almost in the same bracket. He comes here with the first time tongue tie and his second run since Wind Up, but his latest out and back over hurdles left a lot to be desired. And now he's back chasing again. I'm not sure what to make of him. Elvis Mail we've touched on, and we spoke about Elvis Mail before we came live. I think if the water gets in the ground, and it does turn soft, I think it really plays into his wheelhouse. He can make the odd wee jumping error, but if he gets the softer ground, then he maybe just got time to make up for that. He can be a bit hit or miss, but like I said, that's generally just because of the jumping. Thunder Rock and La Renamie look the least exposed in this 3 mile chasing sphere. And you'd fancy the Ollie Murphy horse to maybe have the better chance. I am worried about the distance for both. That leaves me with good old Eye Right. Perhaps not the force of old, but he's been running well this year, a couple of times carrying 12 stonish on his back. He's back here at Kelso. He's a crankshout for me in this. Nah, crankshout's a bit much. I spent longer looking at this race than I did any other race tomorrow, including the Morebattle Hurdle. I think this is wide open. I would like to see his price a wee bit juicier than that, but I'll be there tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it, and I will have a wee punt on Eye Right.
I do think Eye Right. He's run around plenty. He knows the track inside out.
Yeah.
And I think that he is such a formidable horse in these sort of races. It's a sort of thing, Don, where if he runs in a handicap, he is carrying top weight.
Yep.
And he's not up to the graded level. And he is getting weight from 2 horses in this, 11 stone 2. And I think from this season alone, that is actually, this will be the lowest weight he has had on his back
for a while,
since he was second behind Cloth Cap in the Hennessy. And that was in 2020, and Cloth Cap came out after the Hennessy race on the route to the Grand National. So there's a wee bit of a fact for everyone who's watching. So that just goes to show that he is dropping down the weights, and he has had the most tips on this race from all the different racing media outlets. He's got 7 tips next to his name, and I think that with what you're saying, Don, I mean, I did give him a good wee write up in the Understarters Order podcast review, and he is 10-3 for a reason. And he's just such a formidable horse. And if anyone deserves a win, it's him, because his last win was in the rehearsal chase, where he just got there to beat Good Boy Bobby, and he's ran consistently this year. So I mean, anyone could win, Don, but I think for me, I'm going to stick with Elvis Mail in the hopes that the rain gets into the ground and he has a better chance. But for my heart, I'd love to see I Right win, and for a local, Jockey Craig, who comes from Hoyk, and Harriet Graham, who just trains outside Jedburgh.
Yeah.
So, very local. So it would be nice for them to take home the second big race of the afternoon.
I certainly hope so, pal. I certainly hope so. That's where my money will be. So moving on to the 4 o'clock, the Bet 365 Cyril Alexander, Memorial Novices Limited Handicap Chase. There's only 5 runners in here. Class 3, 2.5 miles, 2 miles, 5.5 furlongs. There's a horse in here that we spoke about at Kelso last time, Rachel. Special Rate. He won last month despite there only being one other runner in the race who then failed to finish the race. And he's off the same mark here. I think he quite possibly goes in again tomorrow, because I've been looking at some of the rest of the form, and I think it's Imperial Betty. We'll go with that. One on the ground that he won on last month was awful. I think it was at Southall. It won't be like that tomorrow. And he's went up £7. 2-1. He's already on a drift. I'll be looking elsewhere. General Officer, I think, was a horse that you fancied. Correct me if I'm wrong. For Cheltenham Trials Day. He will prefer this to Musselburgh. He jumped left on a few occasions. He'd be the main danger here for me. Special Rate stayed on that same mark. I do think he goes in again, but I'd like to know where you're at here.
Special Rate. I just think he wins this, Don. For me, he should be favourite. I mean, fair enough, he didn't beat anything exciting last time because he was the only finisher. But I just think you can't fault his winning streak. I mean, he is 2-2 at Kelso, and he's 4 out of 5 runs over fences where he's been unbeaten. He doesn't look to be stopping anytime soon. Always looks like he has more to offer. Dropping back and trip a bit, because mostly his recent runs, they've been over just shy of 3 miles. So he's dropping down possibly like 2 furlongs, but he can easily take it any stride based on the way that he's won his last 2 races at Kelso convincingly. I mean, there was distance between him in the second. The only concern I would have with him is the quick turnaround, but it wasn't that quick between his first win at Kelso to his next run at Kelso. I mean, it was only sort of just shy of like under a month. There's not much more I can say about him. I mean, we've got a horse in the last race that ran on the same day, Special Rate, Escaping Evade, who I'm sure we'll get on to shortly. So, I mean, horses, there mustn't be anything like untowards with them. They must be in good form, otherwise the trainers wouldn't send them here to run. And I just think Special Rate should win this, really. I mean, he is carrying just a pound under the top weight horse, which is Chasing Fire. General Officer, I did tip him up for the Musselburgh Cheltenham Trials Day. He is likeable, he is consistent, but the one that I'm just going for the big price horses in this podcast tonight, Don, but Brandy McQueen, I was there when he won his chasing debut at Kelso, and he did look like a horse to be reckoned with, going over fences for the first time, and hoping that he would build on that. But it's interesting that they're putting cheek pieces on here. Craig Nichol has had and does get a really good tune out of this horse. I mean, he's been second a few times on him. He's won on him. He looks a nice horse. I think the cheek pieces might eke out that bit of improvement and might just give him a polite kick up the backside, really.
Might do.
But Special Rate for me, Don. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having Brandy McQueen as an each-way selection. I mean, I know there's only 5 runners, so you'll only get the first and second. But I do think that with the cheek pieces going on, first time, he's at the bottom of the weights. He is the lowest rated, but if these cheek pieces have, he is well capable of making his presence felt in a race that's wide. I mean, if you never had Special Rate in this, my selection would still be Brandy McQueen. based on the fact that he does seem to go well in small fields. He can dictate. So I think it's going to be a one-horse race for me, with special rate based on the form he's in and his form figures. I mean, there's nothing more impressive than having 5 number ones next to your name. This is a bit of a step up in class, but like I've said, he does put distance between his rivals. He travels really strongly. We know he acts on the course, like I've said. Horses, vice versa. So he does look like the one that should be winning. But if anyone's wanting value, Brandy McQueen at 14 to 1s, you might get him a wee bit bigger on the day. But yeah, Don, it's a trappy little contest, this.
No, I agree, Rachel. Thank you very much.
I feel like I went too long there, but
No, not at all. Not at all. It is a trappy contest, and you have to evaluate what you've got in front of you. Speaking of which, evaluating what we've got in front of us. Now we move on to the 435. The Bet 365 Juvenile Hurdle. Class 3 over 2 miles. Again, another 5-runner race. I'll be polite. Quite a tight betting heat in this one, Rachel. Certainly for the top 4 in the market. Not a lot of national hunt for them. There's certainly over obstacles to go with here. Where do I start?
I've got 2 in here that I quite like. I like Mojo Ego. He was disappointing last time out, but the only thing that's really attracting me to him is he's got far more experience over obstacles. He's had 3 good runs to date, even though the latter was quite disappointing as he jumped out to his right and did make a few jumping errors, but he clearly has an engine. He looks the one that should be winning this. The Ian Williams horse, I think it's Gerbani or De Gerbani, can't pronounce, sorry. Ground and trip are no issues, Don. I mean, he's won over 1 mile 7 on the flat on good to soft ground. Looking at his form, some of them have been on soft where he's finished 3rd 4 times. The latter, which was over 1 mile 4, and he seemed to take the step up in distance fine when he won by a length on good to soft ground. So the trip doesn't seem an issue. He would probably be the one that I would keep an eye on at a later date, as his being bred by the Aga Khans, pedigree, those types of horses tend to do well as they progress. So his progeny progresses well based on the pedigree. But I think Mojo Star is, I don't want to say a good thing in this race, but he has the most experience over his rivals. He does look progressive. I know he had that mistake last time out, and that was in a big field. When you look at his form, his only 3 runs to date over hurdles, he's won when there's only been a small field, and he's 4th when there's been 12 runners, 11 runners. So I do think that the small field will help him. I mean, he is carrying top weight. His price has been drifting, and the Ian Williams horse has been shortening in the betting. But for my understanding, I cannot see Governor of India taking to jumps. I'll be pleasantly surprised. I mean, he has got a classy pedigree. I mean, Dubawi, you can't say much more about Dubawi. I know we're talking about jumps on this podcast tonight, but his dam was a Musadora winner. So he's actually bred to be a classic horse. He didn't really achieve much over the flat. He is an interesting newcomer to the hurdling ranks, but I think the drift in price tells you a lot about him. I don't fancy him at all in this race. I'm just going to stick with the easier option, Don, and go for Mojo Ego at 5 to 1. I think the smaller field will play to his strengths, and he has the most experience today under hurdles. But I think this will be more just a watching race, Don, even though I've said about 20 seconds ago that I would back Mojo Ego at 5 to 1. But I just think that even though there's a few in here that haven't had a hurdle race, or a run under rules, they will be relatively well schooled ahead of this.
You'd like to think so from the yards they're coming from, yeah.
Yeah, you would think. And Ian Williams does really well from horses that have came from the flat and then went hurdling. So I do think, like I've said, I'll let you discuss this, Don. I feel like I'm taking up too much time, but Mojo Eagle, for the fact that he's got the experience, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ian Williams' horse comes out and runs a good race in this. He does look quite a useful horse.
There's generally two schools of thought when you're looking at people, you're looking at horses like Mojo Eagle. There's either he's too exposed or he's got the most experience. And for me in a race like this, I would always fall down on the most experience. Yeah. Unless there was something in here I knew was lightning over hurdles. Unless there was something I knew here. I don't know any of them. And I don't know if it's going to be a betting race for me. If you ask me, you need to pick one, it would be Mojo Eagle. My concern is he's drifted in the market like he's lost a leg. I mean, he's went from near enough 5 to 11 to 4 to 5 to 1. I mean, as he fell down, I don't really know. Is it just because the fact he's carrying 11.6 and every other horse is carrying 11? I'm not bothered about the £6 with a horse that's got hurdle experience. Doesn't bother me. He's got Darryl Jacob on his back. He's coming for Harry Derham. So he should be a half-decent animal. Am I tempted enough? We'll find out tomorrow if he's still 5 to 1. I don't think he will be.
No.
The McCain horse is seeing the money. But generally, the night before, owners' groups horses do get shortened in. It's probably because there's about 6,000 people who know the owners' group's colours who's probably had a couple of bob on. And Gerbani from Ian Williams, I'm not surprised to see some money coming in for that. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. I'll be looking forward to the parade ring. That's the good thing about being there tomorrow. I'll be there trying to keep my son occupied with some form of sweet treat while I get to watch these bad boys in a paddock. And I'll see what sticks out in the parade ring and I'll maybe lob a wee fiver on. But right now, yeah, I'm with you, pal. Mojo Eagle.
Mojo Eagle. Harry Derham's not all this way up for nothing.
You have to cling to something, don't you, in these races? You have to.
Yeah. So I think we're on the right track going Mojo Eagle in this juvenile race.
Yeah, I think so. Let's hope so. So we'll move on to Lucky Last, the 510, the Bet365 handicap chase. We've got another class 3 here, Rachel, to round off the day. 2 miles, 1 furlong, 8 declared to run. I certainly hope we get 8 for the each way purposes. You touched on Escape and Evade earlier on. Ran in the same day as Strike Rate when we done the podcast last time. Where do you want to start in here?
Well, I don't think we'll be getting each way value done because there's 7 runners.
Oh, who's came up?
Coast Guard Station.
Nah, so as.
So it'll be first 2. Now, I'm going to take a wee punt on Cedar Hill at 13 to 2. Now, this horse likes Kelso. He's won round here before. He is £1 below his last winning mark, which throws him into this. His mark is slipping. Ground conditions are fine. He hasn't been in the same form as of recently. He hasn't got the most appealing record that might suggest a rejuvenated horse come this time tomorrow. But he's in a deep race, but I'm sure he can cope with it. He's one of the 2 runners for Raymond Green, who has had good success in these colours around Kelso. And I tipped up one of his horses on the air podcast on Sunday night, Trapain Law, who won easy. So the owner's having a good time of things at the moment. I honestly, for the life of me, cannot see why Nettie Well is second favourite. Now, we know he is ground dependent. He thrives off winter, soft, heavy ground. Now, the heavens need to seriously open, even though it is raining at the moment, but they seriously need to open for this horse to win this. I mean, I can't have him. And I'll take my hat off to everyone if he wins tomorrow. But Escape and Evade, like I've just discussed on about special rate in the previous 2 races that we've done. He's bidding for the hat trick, but he can be winning with this with his cheek pieces still applied. You would hope that they still have the desired effect. He won easy last time out. He's up £5 from winning at Kelso, but when he won at Sedgefield, he was put up £5. Then he won at Kelso and he was put up £5 for this race tomorrow. So he's possibly not stopped improving if he can take the 5 within reach. He does seem ground dependent though on soft, heavy ground, but I do feel like being a big horse, he probably does prefer those ground conditions. But I honestly don't think the ground width that we saw at Kelso on that occasion in February, it didn't look as heavy as what it possibly did at Sedgefield.
It didn't look that soft, did it? They claimed it was soft. I didn't think it was soft all round.
No, I didn't think it was either. So, I mean, he is quite a likeable horse. He is 2-1 at the moment. The one that may have a possibility is the other Raymond Anderson green horse, which is Gold du Bois, is slipping down in weight. He is a 10-year-old. He may prove vulnerable to the more younger horses, but there's not many younger horses in this. I mean, there's only like 2 years difference between like the 10-year-olds and the 8-year-olds. I mean, Nettywell is 7, but Nettywell, he needs the heavens to open. He needs it completely attritional ground, I think. It was only last time out when he won, which was 7 days ago. He obviously does seem to be thriving. He seems to be in good form. But I'm going to take Cedar Hill at a price, but I do think that Escape and Evade can take the £5 higher mark in his stride, and he could be winning this. I mean, we did talk on the last podcast whether he would back up that run at Sedgefield. Obviously he did. He came out and won at Kelso. So, I mean, I can see why he's favourite. But going back to Cedar Hill there, Don, Sandy Thompson does like to have a winner on Bet365 Day at Kelso, and wouldn't be a surprise to see Cedar Hill bounce back. He does seem to be a course specialist around here. Ryan Mania's on board. He's won on him before. He seems to get a good tune out of him. And he seemed to be returning to form in a way when he was 4th last time out. So I'll take the 13-2 and hope that he goes well for Sandy Thompson.
Of the 2 Raymond horses, I'd be with you. Gold du Bois looks to be on attractive mark, but that's because he's not been running well. His mark is plummeting. I'm not sure this is the race where he turns it around. So if you were asking me to pick between the 2 in the same colour, I'd be siding with your selection. I'm going to go with Nettywell, right? £21 he's been up for those last 3 runs. Those last 3 runs have been heavy, soft, heavy. The Newcastle race was 7 days ago. And he's up again and potentially good to soft ground. And the last 5 races before that, 4 races, have all got soft. They're not good to soft. They all say soft. This horse has been a moneymaker. Patrick Wadge's on again, like I said earlier on fire. There has to be a ceiling at some point. Am I willing to jump in at 3-1, 10-3 to find out that ceiling's tomorrow? No, thank you. Not for me. We touched on a horse a minute ago that was drifting like a barge. Escape and Evade is doing the exact same thing. He's up £10 for those last 2 wins. But I think Sacré-Cœur goes and sets a pace tomorrow to be aimed at. And I think he sets this up for Escape and Evade. Escape and Evade, I'm not going to say he was keen last time out, but he did throw in 1 or 2 slightly flat, slightly dodgy jumps. Cleans them up. 2-1 might look good tomorrow for me. I think I'm going to stay with Escape and Evade because we backed it both last time, I believe. And I think Sacré-Cœur sets it up for him. I think Nettywell falls at the back of the telly. And I think Cedar Hill might be the one to upset the apple cart. So I don't think you're far off there. For me, Rachel, I'm going to stick with James Ewert's horse, Escape of It.
Yeah, I think it's his only runner of the day as well, Don. And that was the same occasion when he ran this horse last time at Kelso. It was the only runner of the day. So they must think quite a lot of the horse. Like I say, he's been nothing but impressive his last 2 runs. He is up £10, but he was up £5 after his Sedgefield win, and then he came out and won at Kelso. So I don't know if he's reached the ceiling as yet. I do agree with what you're saying. Sacré-Cœur looks to be the pace angle in this race. If he does go hard in front, Escape and Evade can pick up the pieces like he did the last time. He wasn't that far off the pace, and jumping the third last, he jumped in front and he kept on galloping to the line. Obviously, with the rain that's fallen just now, if it does continue raining throughout the night, there is a slight chance Nettywell could run okay, but I just feel like he needs attritional ground. He needs it deep, and he's currently 12 stone. Obviously, Patrick Wodge will take off £3 tomorrow, but I just can't have him unless there is like soft, heavy in places in the going description. I don't think we'll get that. I mean, it's not heavy rain at the moment. Cedar Hill could be the one that picks up the pieces when the race falls apart, turning for the home straight after the final bend.
There's I don't even know if he would get in it. There's a 2 mile handicap chase at Aintree. Might be the Red Rum handicap. He probably wouldn't get in it, right? But imagine this Nettywell, he's only 7, turns up and does the same thing tomorrow that he's been doing the last few runs. Lucinda and Connections are going to look at themselves and go, shit, we should have had this horse prime for the festival. Because he's going to go up again. He's going to be the mid-130s, if not higher than that. And if he does it on good to soft ground, it just shows you the horse is still progressing and still talented. I don't think it does. I think tomorrow's a stretch for him. I think it's far too much too soon to be sticking the horse in a game. We'll see what happens. I would like to be proven wrong. But if that's the case, there should be bigger targets in mind than this, than a class 3. You should be looking at listed 2 mile chase somewhere. That's what I think. But no, I don't think it's tomorrow. But we'll find out. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it'll be interesting. I think there's a lot of horses that are running tomorrow that have good chances. It'll be interesting to see how our selections do. But no, I just think it's going to be hard. It might show up a few shock winners. I do think there may be big price winners or big price places in the Morebattle tomorrow. Hopefully it's we get the first 4 home like we did at the last Kelso when we 3 home. It's an ultra competitive day's racing, and it's Kelso's first time staging their premier race day. There's a lot of I think there's going to be a high attendance there tomorrow by what I've heard, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be brilliant, and I'll be there myself alongside you, John. So if we bump into each other, we'll see how we get on. But I'll be there taking some content for all my followers. So if you don't follow me on social media, my social media channel was on the podcast. You'll be able to follow me on there, and I'll be bringing you along the way tomorrow and get some previews uploaded for the races that have the most potential and the most competitive nature.
Spot on, Rachel. We'll look forward to it tomorrow. That moves us on nicely. What's your nap tomorrow or of the weekend, and your next best?
Yep, so my nap is no shot going to be Elvis Mail. I am a sucker for a grey horse. I think he's a bonny horse. Obviously Bruce Lynn doesn't take off the £3 with it being a listed race, but I think the smaller field will suit him. If his jumping has improved, which I think Nick Alexander will have worked hard on, I think 7-1 is a decent price. My next best would probably be Cannock Park for each way value. I just think he's a really likeable horse. Whatever he does this season will be boosted when he goes chasing next year. Looking at that run again there, Don, being behind Django Bay, I mean, he was 40-1 on that occasion, and he didn't disgrace himself in the slightest. I know the form behind when he won at Cheltenham in a 10 hasn't really reached the heights that people must have been hoping for, and he was well beaten by Brucio, who runs in this race as well. But I think Cannock Park, there's no way I can let him go off 11-1 tomorrow. Hopefully the rain doesn't get in too much. I mean, it's like I want the rain to fall for Elvis Mail, but I don't want the rain to fall for Cannock Park, because I think Cannock Park will be much better on better ground.
Yeah.
But I mean, Cannock Park for my next best, but I think Elvis Mail, his form figures around Kelso speak for themselves. An out and out stayer. He was entered in the Aintree Grand National last year, but pulled out due to attritional ground. It was really wet on Scottish Grand National Day last year, so I don't think it'll be as bad tomorrow. So Elvis Mail for my nap. How about you?
I was really strong on Django Bay, but because it's in the same race as Cannock Park, what I'll say is my nap will then be the 4 o'clock. It'll be special rate. And my next best, I will take the Kaluki Kid in the first. So there you go. That's 4 different races, nap and next best, along with 4 double-priced horses in the Morebattle. What else could you want? And the last time we were at Kelso, me and you done a tri-cast in the first. So, hey.
It can happen. It can happen. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's any big prize winners, like I've already said, Don. I think it'll be one of those days where the Morebattle Hurdle could throw up a horse. I don't think that there's many in that race that have obviously the entries for Cheltenham. Obviously, there's that 100k bonus if a horse wins the Morebattle and goes on to Cheltenham. Benson tried to do it last year. He ran in the Curl Cup, but didn't. I don't think he liked the big field on that occasion, even though he won in a biggish field last year in the Morebattle. But Cheltenham, a big field there is a total different kettle of fish compared to a big field around Kelso. So it'll be interesting if Under Control can do the business for Nicky Henderson. Obviously, we've touched on the form of the stable at the moment, but obviously it seems to be the case that happens quite often for Nicky Henderson. He does seem to have a wee bit of a dip in form before the festival, and then his horses come a little before. Obviously, he'll have runners at Sandown next week, so it'll be interesting these next 2 weeks for Nicky Henderson. And obviously, there's no worries with Under Control. If she went to win this, there is the potential for her to run in the county or another handicap race at Cheltenham. And last year she went to Cheltenham and won, and then she came out 9 days later and won the big race at Sandown on Bet365 finale day at Sandown Park as the championship ended for the season. So there's no worries in that sense. But I just think that there's much more better value in the prices of the horses that are outsiders.
Agreed. Definitely agree, Rachel. Looking forward to it. Cannot wait. If there is rain, I hope it's tonight. I hope it's not during the day, because I'm pretty sure my son will be going tits. So let's hope we get a really good dry weather for the racing.
Hopefully. And I'll be there tomorrow putting some content out for all my lovely followers on social media. And hopefully people that are watching can back a big winner or two.
To start playing up. Absolutely lovely. Rachel, thank you very much for this evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good weekend, guys, and have a good Kelso tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Cheers. Hope it's a lovely day tomorrow and catch up with you on the podcast, I think, next week when Kelso return again on the 10th of March, which is Mother's Day. So hopefully, hopefully, if you have any selections next week for you for Kelso and your horse wins, you can buy your mothers a lovely Mother's Day present. With the money from our tips, there's always a bonus. But no, thank you, Don, for another successful podcast tonight. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
And what we'll do next time is we'll stick in some Cheltenham Grade 1 winners as well. We may as well.
Looking forward to it. Oh, I can't wait, Don, for Cheltenham. Like, I'm so excited.
Cheltenham. Nah, it's going to be a good couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to it, pal. It'll be good fun.
I cannot wait. But no, I'll catch up with you tomorrow, and I hope everyone has a successful betting weekend and looks forward to the racing tomorrow at Kelso. It's so competitive, and hopefully it stays dry for us all.
Spot on, Rachel. Thanks very much, pal. Cheers, guys. All the best.